Tim Burton's Wednesday is a deliciously dark and wicked horror show. In the spirit of the two 90s films, The Addams Family and Addams Family Values, the new Netflix series marries humor with a little bit of darkness and balances between the two with ease. And with Jenna Ortega making the title character come to life, but in a reimagined tone, her classmates more than hold their own as well. And known for such films as Edward Scissorhands, Corpse Bride, and Beetlejuice, among many others, Tim Burton brings a wonderfully twisted richness and detail to the series. Whether it's the opening credits or the cultural nods to popular horror literature, there are countless references and Easter eggs that make the world even more brilliantly vivid and captivating. And the numbers speak for themselves, as Wednesday has broken records as being the most streamed TV show on Netflix, surpassing Stranger Things 4. But my real question is did you catch everything that was referenced in this show? Hello everyone, welcome to another video. My name is The Hero, and you guys clicked on this video to see the things that you missed in Wednesday. So let's dive right into it. So the series starts out with Wednesday being in a normal school, which already is somewhat kind of amusing because we know she's not gonna last there. And one of the first Easter eggs that you can pick up on is when Pugsley is stuffed in the locker and she opens it to find him with an apple in his mouth. This is actually a reference to the 90s movie when Wednesday actually ties Pugsley up, puts an apple in his mouth, and shoots an arrow at him. And we can honestly say she probably didn't miss, because Pugsley is still kicking, but that archery reference doesn't stop there, because Wednesday actually references the exact same scene later in the show. When Xavier actually is practicing archery outside the school, Wednesday walks up to him and he asks if she's actually ever done it before.
Ever shot a bow and arrow before?
Only on live targets.
And I mean, look how good she shoots this bow and arrow. But if you thought that Easter egg was really cool, the hunt has only begun. Throughout the series, you get a lot of scenes involving Principal Weem's office. But there's plenty of Easter eggs that you might have missed, especially one that sits right in front of her. If you take a look at what sits on her desk, directly in front of her sits a shrunken head in a container. This is a direct reference to Beetlejuice, which Tim Burton directed, and a nice little Easter egg for all of Tim Burton's fans out there. And let's not forget that big old bear in her office either, because this is a significant reference to the 1960s Addams Family show, as they had owned a giant stuffed bear looking almost exactly the same in that show. Now, Wednesday Addams might not need a teddy bear to cuddle with at nighttime, because obviously she has a signature way of sleeping. During the infirmary scene, after the gargoyle almost crushes her and she's saved by Xavier, if you look at the way she sleeps, it's like she's sleeping in a coffin. This is actually a direct reference to the 90s film, because Wednesday actually slept the exact same way in her own bed. When Wednesday actually meets Tyler for the first time, she explains that she can actually help him fix his coffee machine. But her reasoning is a little weird. This is a little throwback to the 90s film Addams Family Values, where she actually does decapitate her dolls. And this reference even goes further than that, as she actually had a decapitated doll in the 60s show as well as the 90s movie. Now at this point, I'd be completely terrified if I was Tyler, but obviously there's something up his sleeve that we all know now of why he wasn't too scared. Now, of course, they couldn't do this series without referencing the classic Addams Family tune, and it was referenced a few times throughout the series. In the first episode, Tyler actually says,
You're just kind of kooky.
I prefer spooky.
as well as throughout the series, you'll hear a lot of snapping going on, always in the two snaps. The clue to actually unlocking the basement is to snap twice. Another throwback Easter egg to the 60s sitcom. And let's not forget the dance craze of the century with Wednesday's little groove that she does at the school dance. Obviously, I can't do it as great as she did, but Jenna Ortega actually choreographed that all herself. She had actually explained that a lot of the inspiration that came for this dance came from old gothic people and how they danced back in the day, as well as a throwback to the Wednesday of the 60s sitcom and her little dance jig that she did for Lurch. Now, what is a Wednesday show without some blood, right? Well, later in the school dance scene, we do see a little bit of that. Or so we think. Because actually some of the kids put red paint in the sprinkler system and it pours all over the school dance, ruining everyone's white clothes. This is a nice little reference to another classic horror movie, Carrie, where she actually gets pig blood drenched all over her. And I thought this was a pretty neat little ad by Tim Burton and the team. And actually Wednesday herself references this by saying, "They couldn't even sprinkle real pig's blood." Now, the references to other Tim Burton movies don't just stop there, because you know he had to reference other things he worked on. And this one I was so excited for when you finally see it, because I feel like everyone missed this one when they first watched the series. During the scene when Enid actually works at the taxidermy place, if you look closely at how all these figures are sitting around, you can actually catch a certain reference to another Tim Burton movie. Sitting right there in plain sight, you can see a reference to Corpse Bride, as one of the taxidermy animals is dressed exactly like the bride. I thought this one was pretty neat to see. And during this same exact scene, you can actually see another animal dressed exactly like Freddy Krueger, with the iconic sweater, knives for hands, and a little bit chilling to look at. As well as Freddy also plays a bigger role in this show, because as we know with Freddy Krueger, he likes to attack victims in their sleep. And later in Wednesday, Xavier actually claims that the hide actually attacked him in his sleep as well. And later we find out that Dr. Kinbot is the one that actually makes these taxidermy animals. And you know that Tim Burton was gonna go ahead and include some more references to his films, because actually when she opens up her door and you see a lot of the animals, you can actually spot a Beetlejuice one sitting right there in front of our eyes. And I have to say, I did miss this the first time watching it. As well as you can find another Freddy Krueger one sitting right next to it. Later, when Wednesday finds Tyler at the weather vane and asks and rings the bell for him, he comes out and asks, "You right?" This is a nice little throwback to the 60s sitcom, when the Addams Family would always ring an enormous bell to get Lurch's attention to have him do something. Tyler also wonders if Wednesday ever was in the Girl Scouts.
I could eat Girl Scouts for breakfast.
Which is a nice little reference to the 90s movie Addams Family, when a girl asks Wednesday if she'll buy one of her Girl Scout cookie boxes. After watching the finale of the show, you can actually see that the death of Cragstone was actually referenced earlier in the show. Wednesday and Thing actually burned down the statue of Cragstone, and the melting is actually symbolic of how Cragstone is actually burned off in the finale of the series. When Morticia Addams takes off the head of the rose at Garrett Gates' grave, it is actually a shout out to the 60s sitcom as well as the 90s movie, when Morticia used to cut off the heads of the roses. As well as a little tip to the 1991 yearbook, which is the year that Morticia Addams went to Nevermore, and the exact same year that the Addams Family movie came out. On her way to Nevermore, if you pause the scene when the vehicle is driving and take a closer look at that license plate, you can actually see that the Addams family lives and are from New Jersey, which is a direct reference to Charles Addams, who was the original person to draw the Addams Family series. As well as you can find another reference to Charles Addams, with his birthday actually being Gomez's prison uniform number when he's arrested in the show. Now, Addams Family fans probably didn't miss the painting of Cousin It in the basement of the Nightshade Society, but if you actually pause and zoom in, you can actually find out that his name is Ignatius It, and he was known as the Supreme Shade, and that even though Cousin It isn't alive anymore in this iteration of the Addams Family, the scene does pause for a second on this shot, and it makes you wonder if you will see a descendant or some other version of Cousin It in season 2 of Wednesday. Now, how about a reference to Alfred Hitchcock's story, The Birds? Because if you take a look at the costume of Principal Weems, her costume was directly influenced by Tippi Hedren's look in The Birds. And you can actually see this throughout the show, including the way she does her hair at the festival. Now, given the homage already to Alfred Hitchcock with the Birds reference, and how they directly correlated all the costumes and just everything being centered around birds in this show, there's actually another famous film of Hitchcock's that was referenced in the show as well. At the end of the first episode, Wednesday actually does a slight little smile or grin that I feel like is a direct reference to Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho smile, and how Norman Bates' infamous little smile at the end of Psycho was all a little bit too creepy. And let's not forget this reference to the Addams Family movie from the 90s, when Tyler actually shows Legally Blonde to Wednesday in the show. Because not only should this be a red flag to Wednesday that he didn't have the right intentions for her from the beginning, as we find out later, this could also be a little throwback to when Gary and Becky from the 90s movie forced Wednesday, Pugsley, and their friend to watch Disney movies to cheer up. Now, there was plenty of clues that directly correlated to Miss Thornhill being the super bad of the series, but there's one tiny little detail that if you would have caught, you could have definitely known that she was up to something. You might have caught that when Thornhill is talking to the mayor in the coffee shop, she actually says,
"You're always tucked into that little back booth when I come in for my daily matcha latte."
But when she meets Tyler at the Raven dance, Tyler actually says that she always comes in for a cappuccino.
Double cap, no foam, 2 pumps of sugar-free vanilla.
To which Miss Thornhill actually responds,
It's a small town. It's hard to keep secrets.
which we all know that she had a major secret. But honestly, one of the biggest reveals of the series was actually in the final scene of the finale, when Wednesday actually gets a phone from Xavier and we find out that she has a new stalker on the premise. But the biggest takeaway from this scene is first, how did the stalker even get Wednesday's number? Does Xavier still have some underlying secret tendencies that he's actually a bad guy? Or did someone already install a little virus in the phone before he gave it to Wednesday? This hopefully will all be revealed in season 2. And we'll have to see what season 2 has in store for us, because that is the last thing that we see before it fades to black. Oh man, I just can't wait. Whether it was direct references to the 90s movie, or the 60s TV show, or even Tim Burton's own films that would make many fans happy, we can all say that Wednesday was a nice little horror thrill ride that we all enjoyed riding. But the real question is, were there any more clues to connect Miss Thornhill to being the ultimate big bad in the series? Were there other things that you might have missed and clues that you didn't pick up on that was directly connected to her being the ultimate villain? And one of those could have been a direct reference to how Frankenstein played a huge part in all of this. But that will have to be saved for a future video, because this video has come to an end. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you guys hit the like button as well as the subscribe button and the bell icon so you guys get notified when I do my upload. But until the next video, as I always say, stay nerdy, stay geeky, and I will see you guys at the movies. Bye bye.